Hi, thank you for watching my video. Today I'm going to show you how I painted this little cute bird with the flowers. So I started first with painting the shadow with a purplish color, but not too much. And I also added some pink color to make it more vibrant. Just added it here and there. And I also charged more pigments in where it is darker on the petals. So I'm using the wet on wet technique to let the colors, the pigments blend naturally. And to create some patterns for the petals, I have to wait for the first layer to dry a little bit more before I add more color. So now you can already see the shape of the petals, and I'm working on the stem right now. I started first with the yellowish color just at the highlight of the branch. And then I add more darker pigments, kind of greenish pigments, to create the shapes and the shadow of the stem. So the techniques I'm using here is mainly wet on dry because I don't want the color to go out of my sketch. So it depends on your painting, then you will decide whether or not you use the wet on wet or wet on dry techniques. So now I'm working on the bird, the little cute bird. So usually for the bird, I will create the first layer with the wet on wet technique, and I try to add more than one color for the first layer, wet on wet, so the bird will look more vibrant, more colorful. Add more shadow. A little cute feet. Now I'm working on the background, and I paint wet on wet to let different colors in the background blend together, just like to create the blurry effect. So I need to be very careful when I paint the edge, so I don't want the color from the background to go into my main objects. What I'm doing now is I just like roll the paper, the tissue paper, and then just like to create the bokeh effect. Just pick some pigments out of the background. I continue working on the shadow of the bird with the wet on wet technique. So if you don't know yet, then I will share with you about like how to create the shape. So for example, the bird, the body of the bird, right? The shadow, the darkest part is not at the edge of the bird, but is kind of like 1/3 of the bird. So if you paint that part a little bit darker, then it will create the round shape. So it looks more 3D. And I'm painting the wings, little wings of the bird wet on dry. So I need to wait for the other layer, the previous layer to dry completely before I apply wet on dry for the wings and for the eyes. And you can already see that the bird came to life. I'm adding more pigments to the shadows of the petals because I feel like the flower doesn't look very vibrant enough to me, so I added more pigments. So I will leave the highlines unpainted, and I will just focus on the shadows. So use mainly wet on dry. Sometimes I have to blend the color a little bit to avoid the marks on the petals. It depends on the object. So it's better if you have a reference photo so you can see how the light and the color blends together, so you can decide which technique you use for your painting. Here we go, we have the petals. And I'm adding more shadows to the stems. The techniques I'm using now here is mainly wet on dry. And it's very important to keep the light and shadow consistent across your painting on different objects. So in this painting, the light came from the left-hand side. So everything else on the right hand side of every object should be a little bit darker. I'm adding more cast shadow for the branch because the bird is stopping the light to the branch. So the bird is standing on the branch. That's why it creates a shadow. To create the texture of the branch, I use the wet on dry technique and add the color using the brush to add color here and there, with some parts light darker and lighter than the other. And we add more shadow to the branch where the feet are standing on because those parts receive less light. And here's the final painting, a realistic bird with a flower. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you find it useful, please let me know in the comment. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do, because that supports me a lot and encourages me to create more tutorials in the future. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!